Hey, Common SenseAcrats. It is a new, exciting episode for you all. We're going to be talking about arts and culture and cancel culture and all of the fun things on the internet world that are causing some actors to pull their hair out. So, with me today is the lovely Blair Godshall. She is an actress. She owns her own production company. Please introduce yourself, Blair.
Hey everyone. Well, thanks for having me so much. We went through all of the back and forth of I'll be in person, I won't be in person, whatever. Yeah, hi, my name's Blair. I'm an actor, a podcaster, Zumba instructor, dog sitter, yoga instructor. I kind of do it all, wherever I'm needed, I'll go. Like next month, I'm going to be in a musical. Not on stage though. I'll actually be costume designing. But I'm just so excited to be a part of it. Yeah, I have a podcast called The Cancel Curtain, which is about theater, politics, and the arts, and how cancel culture kind of ties all of that together. So um, that's been going on for about 3 months now. And yeah, I mean, I've gotten to meet a lot of incredible people through that. And you and I have actually bonded more because we both started podcasts completely separately, had no idea each of us were doing it. And I was like, oh, I had no idea you and I shared similar values.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very lovely surprise. I was like, oh, I was like, I have to get to know Blair more because we had met through the fringe scene in Cincinnati and all of that stuff, but we really didn't know each other that well. And then I
Right.
moved to New York by the time we were starting to get to know each other. And then it was like, well, I'll see her when I see her. And then the pandemic happened. And fast forward, seeing all of her awesome brave posts on Facebook, which thank you for that, because that's a
Oh,
big no, because that's a big deal, because I feel like people are scared to come out even to this day. They're slowly coming around. I'm noticing
right.
it out, which is
Absolutely.
great. So that's kind of how Blair and I recently reconnected, was through that. And I said, so that's when I reached out and said, let's meet for coffee. And here we are.
And
But yeah,
here we
that's
are.
cool. That's cool that you're a Zumba instructor. So how was that through, like, even during the pandemic? Did you have to do like the typical virtual Zumba sessions, or how did that go?
Oh, okay. So for that, that was very interesting. Because I live in Kentucky, but I teach in Ohio, just because we kind of live on the border of there, the
Mhm.
tri-state as they call it, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio. So I they actually opened up, oddly enough, we opened up and had in-person classes in May, starting in mid-May of last year. So that was really cool to actually be able to go back in person. I did not teach wearing a mask. We would do the in-person class and you just put your mask back on when you were roaming, the gym. And then I actually did, and even now we're finishing this up and we'll go back to in person, but I would teach from my home via Zoom for another rec center. So, I mean, people found different ways around it. And actually, when I was learning to be a yoga instructor, that happened right smack dab. Our teaching was happening, from January to August. And so, 80% of the time, we are on lockdown in the pandemic. So we just did Zoom classes. So I actually kind of did an online degree for yoga, even though it was meant to be in person. And the same with extra Zumba training. So I'm actually licensed in not just Zumba, but Zumba Gold, Zumba Kids, and Aqua Zumba. But I would have had to go out of town and spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for this training. But because they still needed to make money and train people, they just did it from home. So I made use of my time during the lockdown and during the pandemic and just did a bunch of online training, and it's still perfectly legitimate.
Mhm.
And and yeah, and since then I've been able to teach yoga and Zumba, not just here, but I was in Cancun a couple months ago. We even traveled during the pandemic to Florida, the promised land, and taught yoga there at a resort. So
That sounds lovely. A resort in Florida. And oh my gosh, like,
yeah, yes, 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 yes. There's something called Fitness Pro Travel. I actually learned about that through Zumba. And if you're a fitness professional, you can sign up through them and get super discounted vacations. All you have to do is teach once or twice a day at a resort for the week that you're staying, and you'll get a very, very awesome rate. So that was something that we did. And yeah, so it was definitely possible during the pandemic to still do an online learning. And I'm actually glad that was one of the benefits, I think, of the pandemic is people got more creative. And
Oh,
I think, working from home, learning from home, people thought of ways to make it work. And so now the excuse that, can we have this meeting from home? That's, people can't really use that as an excuse anymore. And so
right.
that's kind of what I like because we can save on gas, which is now super expensive. And I personally, when I can, I like to do things via Zoom when you can, when appropriate.
Right. That's true. Um, and yeah, and then also with your theater company, how has that really affected through the pandemic? Probably about the same thing, right?
Well, we did not, I did have one of my producers say, well, maybe you could do some online stuff. And while I respected that, and I understood, I totally did. And some theaters were, in it to win it. I did not have the desire to do online theater. And I'm not like knocking that, like you can do that, but I just didn't, my heart was not in it. So it actually gave me time to regroup and ask like, okay, what do you want? What is the plan then? Cause yeah, we were going to do stuff last year, didn't happen. But again, it's given me time to replan, regroup, rethink, and we're in the talks in the works of getting a theater building downtown.
Great.
That's a whole other process. So, I mean, for now that's TBA, but um, I mean, I think the pandemic gave lots of artists time to think and rethink and reorganize like what is it that you want in this life, especially when, your plans are stopped, especially when there's lots of obstacles that you have absolutely zero control of. And so I really think it forced people to get very creative and actually start to recognize within themselves more than just, I'm only an actor,
Right.
that you have a lot more to offer in this world. Everyone, regardless of what profession you're in, that you are more than just one thing.
Oh yeah. And I think that's also myself included. I feel like that's also what I discovered. Hence, like I think that's one of the things where we went, oh, a podcast would be another great outlet that I would have
Yeah.
never. I mean, if you'd have asked me even last year during all that, I mean, I still would have said, oh, I don't know, maybe, because that was at the time where we still weren't sure about everything and what was going on, except for BLM and all that stuff going down. And then, so I was like, well, that's revving me up a little bit. But then, and then cancel culture was starting to increase. And then it was like, well, what's going on here? And I think that's when a lot of us were starting to shift, was toward the end of this, like mid to end summer. And I'm not sure, I'm sure you were in the same boat where you kind of felt that same way, where a lot of people more on the right were going like this, what's going on here? And everybody started to kind of shift to the truth side, if you will, as I like to say. It's the truth over there, and we got to go over there and figure out what that truth is. So yeah.
Well, I would say I was already there. However, I wasn't saying anything, so I might as well have been on the other side. And that's like totally worthless. And while I don't condemn anyone who is still a closeted conservative, because I was once a closeted conservative, even though I prided myself in college of being the outspoken one, then I kind of retreated again, and yeah, like what you were saying, I didn't think I'd ever do a podcast. Same. I thought podcasts were for hipsters and like dudes who didn't want to do anything else with their life. And now, surprise, I'm doing one. And I love them. I actually listen to more podcasts now because I've always loved audiobooks. And I was like, duh, podcast is pretty much the same thing. Also, too, as you can see, I actually don't like to just get dressed up all the time just to be in my house. And I found that my YouTube channel, quote unquote, was like failing mainly for the reason that I just did not want to get dressed up and do my hair and my makeup all the time. But with a podcast, I could just talk and interview people and talk about something that I could just not shut up about. And so that's really why I started the podcast that I did. But yeah, what you were talking about with oh, we need to go on the side of truth. Yes. I mean, I spoke out. Actually, it's so funny. I mentioned I taught yoga at a resort in Florida, right? Well, part of it, when I was there, I was in the sun, we were around, we weren't masked. You would wear a mask when you would go to get your food and stuff, but when you were outside, in the sun, with all the vitamin D, drinking in the pool, people having a good time, didn't matter what political side you were on. People just wanted to be there having a good time, in September, Florida. And I came back. Well, like there treated me like a professional. They didn't see me as anything but, hey, you're the yoga instructor. You're a professional. You know what you're doing. And I really appreciated that respect. But I also knew that there was a much bigger world out there than the little bubble that we'd all been living in. And that was one of many, many things that kind of spurred me to say, you know what? I am a conservative and I'm unapologetically conservative. I think too when sorry, I'm getting like really dark, but like an officer named David Dorn, he was shot and killed. And mind you, not a conservative, just, black police officer, not even on duty. I think he was like retired or something, but he was just there to help a friend protect his shop from some of the break-ins that had been happening. And he was murdered. And it's like, well, why would you care about someone you never knew before? That was just one incident. There were other people that died. But I think because the media covered that up all the while, the entire summer claiming that Black Lives Matter, and yet this Black retired police officer was killed and murdered, um, that did not sit well with me.
Mhm.
And so that was one of many reasons that I was like, you know what, my silence and not speaking out about issues that are very important, this is why someone like David Dorn will not be remembered, or this is why somebody like his story um, will just, kind of fly away, that there will be no memorial for David Dorn. And that did not sit well with me. But also, too, I was like, you know what? Things are not really changing in my life. I don't really have any conservative friends. Um, and I know the kind of theater that I want to do. And I don't want to just, play by everyone else's rules. I mean, if we as a theater community, we as an arts community and in the entertainment industry, if you claim to be so inclusive, except for people who think like I do, that's not inclusive. And I'm not going to pretend to go with that lie. And I'm also not going to side with people who say, we're the nice ones, we're the kind ones, we're the loving ones, empathetic. And yet, when someone like me speaks out, you call me every name in the book. That's not okay with me. So, there's many reasons I think why so many of us, yourself included, while we started speaking out. And what's interesting though is I think we all did it individually, but we all have someone, at least one person in our life who kind of helped us feel brave.
Mhm.
And so I guess the main reason to sum all of it up why I came out as a conservative artist is because the moment I did that, people started messaging me, actors, singers, dancers, performers started messaging me, finding me. And they're like, I've been looking for this for a long time and I never found it. And I thought it was alone. And I'm not ready to come out of the conservative closet, but you're so brave. And thank you for what you do. And I think, and I won't even say just the left, but I think that any kind of oppressor, any kind of person who is power hungry, any side that is on the side of censorship and silence wants to make you feel alone. And when you feel alone, you feel powerless. But when you feel like there are others out there who are taking that step forward, you feel more emboldened to speak out. And also, too, I want to show people that it's like just because you can be canceled doesn't mean your career or your life or your livelihood is over. If
Mhm.
anything, you've been canceled by one group of people, but there are so many other doors that are going to open for you. And that it's like just because you were canceled by one group of bullies does not mean that there are not other people that are going to have your back and pay it forward 10 times more.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think yeah, I've noticed that too. And I feel like this year as well, because yeah, I think about the same time I started speaking out more and more against what was happening, not necessarily coming out and saying, I'm a conservative and this is what I believe. It was more just like, it should be obvious by now what my political beliefs are. Like, I need to, like, if you don't figure it out by now, then you're really not paying attention to even the friends on the left or the friends. Like, it's like, you know, because it's like, if you believe in police, if you believe in, in actually letting other people's views in, then you're a conservative. Like, that's end of story, because we're welcoming people. That's who we are as a conservative party. Now, yes, you do have some on the conservatives, on the conservative side, that's more like, well, I don't really like Trump, or, well, I don't, but I like what he stands for, or like that kind of stuff. Like,
Sure.
you hear that all the time. But when it comes to the art community, that's where, like, to bring it back to the art community for this especially, it's like, you cannot tell me you're all supportive and loving and caring and we care about everybody, except for, you're a conservative, you got to get out of my show, or you're a conservative, you're not welcome in my show, you're not welcome in my audition, you're not welcome. It's like, but that's not what artists are supposed to be doing.
Right.
Artists are supposed to be actually the most welcoming people out of out of every career I've dealt with in my life, even ones I'm not interested in or whatever, that I've seen growing up. I thought artists are the most welcoming. God, they have transgender artists, gay, lesbian, you name it. But when it's like, oh, now that Donald Trump was in the White House, you're saying no one should be welcome now? You're saying no one? Like, that's like, no one on that side? Like, come on. Like, what
Well,
happened to the police aside?
and here's the thing, all art, I mean, I get it. Everything I say is an opinion, but here's the thing. Art does not come from what you look like or how you identify. Art comes from your ideas, your thoughts, your skill sets. And diversity of thought, um, the left does not believe in diversity of thought. If you step out of line, even in the smallest way, people make a mental note of that. And, um, so many of my friends on the left who are liberal, I think they think that I'm making fun of them or I'm hating on them. No, I don't hate people. I hate ideas. There are some ideas that are absolutely horrible and atrocious, and I'm going to call people out on that if I think you have a bad idea. People call me out on things. You're allowed to do that. Cool. Well, why can't I?
Mhm.
And if I think something is a bad idea, like one bad idea that is in the theater community, where are the conservative playwrights? Where are the conservative composers? Why do you have to be canceled because you like Donald Trump? Oh, he's a racist. Cool. What has he done that has been racist? What has he said that has been racist? What policies has he made that are racist? What rights did he take away from people that are racist? Oh, well, he had a vice president who hates gay people. Vice president does not hate gay people. Well, what about his policies? His policies, if you read it, were to protect religious freedoms with a clause that said you cannot discriminate. Okay, there is a difference between a baker not wanting to make a wedding cake for a gay wedding. You can go somewhere else. That doesn't mean that he's discriminating. I mean, it's the same. Yeah, it's very frustrating. But at the same time, I'm also very positive about it. And actually, this is my pitch for the musical that I'm doing next month. It all happens to be canceled artists, not because the director was exclusive and only wanted canceled artists. It's actually the opposite. Everyone who left him, who had worked with him, was like, I'm not going to work with him. So he had no one else audition for his shows except canceled conservative artists. And so,
I think it's great.
um, that with which I just think is hilarious. And it's funny because, we have Black conservatives, we have gay conservatives, people running for Congress. Our director is running for Congress. His name is Brian Cloudis. He's running in Florida. And, so it's just very interesting to see. Actually, we have a bunch of former liberals in the cast too, who are like, you know what, I've been red pilled and I'm never going back because I realized I've been lied to my whole life. And so, you know, we're not the ones keeping people out. And I've actually heard that from some rhino Republicans saying that, the right is keeping people out. No, the right has certain standards and values that we want to see um, progress in the Republican Party. Um, but we're not going to exclude anybody based on some arbitrary, like what you're black, gay, female. That's stupid. We don't do that. We are a party of ideas, but we are also a nation that was founded on ideas, and that's what we hope to conserve. And so for the leftist poisoned theater
Right.
industry community, for them to say they're inclusive, um, okay, so you're inclusive based on everything except what matters. And really that is ideas and skills and um thoughts, ideas. What can people bring to the table? I can't bring my vagina to the table. I mean, I could, but
Yeah, your
what
conservative vagina,
I
especially.
don't want your conservative
I
vagina,
mean, come on. And then you
you
do
know?
this. Excuse me, you think my vagina is that conservative? Okay. No. I had to. I'm sorry, I had to. Hope I didn't offend anybody in my audience, but it's part of life. Again, I don't know what to
Right.
tell you.
Actually, you know what? There is going to be someone on the left who hears this clip and they're going to use it and they're going to be like, Blair has a conservative vagina.
Like this, great. You want to see it? Really call them out. Just go, you want to see it? I mean, that would be the
Clip is
funniest.
going to, you know what? When I accomplish something great in my life, this is what's going to show up. I already know it. Blair has the conservative vagina. But I mean, it's true.
So that
You
should
know,
be a show. I think that should just be a show. Welcome to a show about my conservative vagina. They have the vagina monologues. This could be,
conservative vagina monologues.
conservative vagina monologues. I mean, the show writes itself.
The show writes itself. That's amazing. We'll have to talk about that more when I know that my mom is not listening.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. I know.
But and I know people will argue, well, as a woman, you have experience living as a woman or, as a Black person. And I'm like, sure, but experiences come from ideas come from experiences. Sure, I absolutely agree. But I mean, honestly, to bring your skin color, your gender, your sexual orientation to the table is a one very small part um, of who we are. And to say that that is the main thing that matters about you, to check a box and to label you as a category, even though the left claims to hate labels, um, ideas don't grow from that. We're not, in the very simplest way that I can put it, there's nothing original or interesting if we are just beating the same dead horse.
Mhm.
And I want to hear different stories. I want to hear creative stories. I want to hear beautiful stories, inspirational ones. They can be sad, they can be happy, but it's like, for goodness sakes, does everything have to have an agenda about your race, gender, or sexual orientation? I mean, seriously, can we listen to something else that doesn't? And then people are going to be like, well, we have stuff about mental health. And I'm like, don't get me started on mental health.
Right.
As someone who's been in the psychiatric hospital 3 times, do not get me started about mental health and how the left has hijacked that. But um, I just care about the art form so much that if we all are continued, if we are all expected to be on the same page and no one can veer away from the narrative,
Right.
how is anything supposed to progress?
Yeah.
When people don't feel like they have the freedom to create, then no one will create anymore. And I want to see new art. I don't want to see another abortion play. I don't want to see another play about how there are all these people are victims and the white people are the oppressors. Because I'm like, first of all, that's not true. But secondly, you're going to lose your audience. I mean, you want to talk about the mask stuff and vaccines? Good luck.
Oh,
Good luck.
speaking of that, though, we need to talk about what I think it was Axios that put this up. So, which of course they're not, they're pretty biased, obviously, but They had a very interesting article talking about the Broadway theaters that are supposed to be reopening in September.
Right.
They were saying just today, they broke today, that all 41, so I'm reading it from the article, all 41 Broadway theaters in New York City will require guests to provide proof they are fully vaccinated and wear masks to attend performances. The Broadway League announced today. Yeah, so basically these are the guidelines. So if y'all are planning on seeing a Broadway show in New York, here's what you need to do, but or at least what they want you to do. Let's see, it's in effect through October 31st. And it says, these are the 3 guidelines. The first one, all audience members will be required to provide proof of full vaccination. So 14 days after a second dose of an FDA or WHO authorized COVID-19 vaccine, or 14 days after a single dose of an approved one-shot vaccine, as well as a government issued photo ID per Broadway Direct. Next one, children who are under 12 and ineligible for COVID-19 vaccines can still attend performances, but they will be required to present a negative COVID-19 tests. And then the final one, masks will also be required for all guests, vaccinated or not, and they must be worn at all times except when eating or drinking. Yeah.
I would have a drink in my mouth the entire time. I would just tape it. I would just tape it in my mouth.
And it's like, and the thing that really makes me upset, first, Axios is wrong on the part that says that it's FDA authorized. It's like, last time I checked, the vaccines weren't FDA approved, for one.
Well, I wonder if they think authorization, and they love to twist those words. I wonder if they think authorization, and this is so what the government does, authorized versus approved. So authorized is in you can go ahead and do it, but approved, I think that's just me. Obviously I have my computer in front of me. I just don't want to, I guess I could look it up right now, but what is the difference between FDA authorized and FDA approved?
See, I never even thought about that.
Because that's what I'm thinking. Because I also too, people are only asking a very small, minute group of medical professionals, all of whom don't actually see patients. But like my mom is a medical professional. She sees patients. And she, was like, why is no one asking someone like me?
Yeah, right.
And she's like, it doesn't even have to be me. You just ask someone other than Fauci who hasn't seen a patient in 40 years. But going back to that, so, okay, so the audience, okay, so basically everyone who attends has to wear a mask, whether you've been vaccinated or not.
Right. So then that means the vaccine doesn't work.
Wait, but what about the performers who will be in close contact with each other?
Oh, that's true. They don't mention the performers. Good catch.
You know what? Someone said to me, and I loved this. She was a teacher for 38 years. She said, this is the smartest damn virus I have ever heard of. It knows when you're on the stage. It knows when you're, it knows when you take your mask down. It knows when you put it back up. It knows when you're 6 feet apart or when you're 1 foot apart. This is the smartest damn virus. It knows when it's Thursday. Because in California, they had maskless Thursdays.
That's right.
I was like, wow, it knows when it's Thursday?
Yeah. It just knows. It knows. And I think I talked about this on my Wednesday episode too, where it said, oh, it knows when you're standing in a restaurant versus where you're sitting in a restaurant.
I know.
It knows when it doesn't come around when you're 6 feet apart, but if you're 3 feet apart, that's when it really increases. Basically just.
You want to talk about gain of function testing. Damn.
Seriously.
They must have been going through their like virus testing Olympics during this time in Wuhan,
Oh my gosh.
Up 6 feet, 3 feet,
12
sitting,
feet,
standing,
masks, 5 masks, no masks. What do you want?
I'm actually quite impressed with this virus that it knows. I wonder if it can tell the difference between a musical or a play.
I think it might. Maybe it does. It's that smart. Maybe it does.
Smart.
Yeah.
If you're in a play,
if you're in
different.
A film or
if you're in a musical.
yeah, then it won't come near you. It won't
But
come
yeah,
in.
I want to know if the performers, um, yeah, I'd like to know if the performers are wearing masks because they're going to be with each other 8 times a week. But then they have Mondays that are dark. And so you never know if they could get exposed to something on Monday.
Right.
But
Not that
even if they're vaccinated, but wait, no, if they're vaccinated, you're fine. But if
Mhm.
you're vaccinated and you're an audience member, that is so cool. The virus can tell if you're an actor versus an audience member.
Exactly.
Oh!
Well, smart. I feel like we all should just become just like COVID and just know these things. Just if we're at a party, okay, we
We
should
should
just
just
act
become
like
like
COVID.
COVID.
We should
If
just
only we
all
were
of it.
as smart as COVID.
Yeah. I think COVID's a genius. I mean, COVID really is a genius. They know when to show up or what pronouns is COVID. Now we got to think about what pronouns COVID's got to use now. What pronoun is COVID?
I know. I know.
What an option. I mean, they have so many, talk about gender fluid.
I know. This mask is very, or not mask, this virus is very, I mean, I'm quite impressed
I
how
know.
fluid this virus is. It really, really is. Sorry, we could keep beating this horse for a
I
while.
know. Everybody's like, shut up
That's
already.
hilarious.
I was like, yeah, my audience is like, shut up already. Jeez.
Oh, I know. I know. I'm
Okay.
sure people tell me that all the time, with everything I post on Facebook, but
I'm sure everybody says the same thing about mine too. I don't even pay attention to comments anymore. I'm just like, whatever. I'm posting what I post. Deal with it. Um, it says FDA approval of a drug, of course, means that data on the drug's effects have been reviewed and the drug is determined to provide benefits, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, basically everything else. And then if it's, let's see, I saw it authorized. Here we go. Authorization, it's FDA to help strengthen the nation's public health protections. So basically, if it's FDA authorized, that means it's still helping the FDA to figure it out, I guess,
mhm.
versus FDA approved.
Interesting. Well,
But
you
like,
know that Biden's White House, no one is actually required to get the vaccine, not
mhm.
the White House. And then two, no one has to disclose their vaccination status if you work at the White House or for the Biden administration. And three, when a journalist, this was last week, I actually listened to Jen Psaki's press conferences because I love to uncover the lies.
Oh, she's my favorite.
Um, and she actually said last week, a reporter had asked her, um, well, can we know who's vaccinated and who's not in your administration? And she's like, well, why do you need to know?
And
Can
yeah,
you
I saw
imagine?
that.
Can you imagine if Kayleigh McEnany said the same thing to a journalist, not even just about vaccinations, but about anything? I was like,
Right.
well, why do you need to know that information? And this is coming from Jen Psaki, going back to Jen Psaki, for her to say, well, why do you need to know that information? Didn't Biden claim that this is the most transparent administration in history?
Uh-huh.
Big question mark. And so for Jen Psaki to say, why do you need to know that information? And no one pressed her about it.
Which that really surprised me. I really thought I even thought Peter Ducey, who's like, I call him their version of Jim Acosta. Because they hate him because he's actually questioning things. He's actually doing his job. And yeah, I was very surprised he didn't follow up with it's like, oh well,
And he's
you
super
can't.
soft anyway. I mean, he always is throwing the softball question. So for him to even like level up, even one level,
I
they're
know.
like, oh, he's attacking me. I
You see it in her body language every time too. She's like,
and she even flat out ignored him. It was like, okay, see you later. Bye. Have a good weekend.
I'm like, what a bitch. Sorry. It's the truth.
I just couldn't, I mean, but it's like everyone gets away with it. And I mean,
No.
I will talk to so many of my liberal friends, the ones who still talk to me. And they're very trusting of government. That's a whole other episode we could go into.
Oh yeah.
But, I ask them, so do you keep your own side accountable? What about all these promises that, they're talking about that they have not delivered on? And they're like, "Oh, well, I'll make calls, I'll email, blah, blah, blah." I mean, I can only take them at their word, but I never see them post stuff on their social media questioning things,
Right.
about this current administration, holding people accountable. And I'm like, you know what? Do you actually, when you attack me, are you actually caring about the issue, or are you actually just looking for a way to attack me? Because I tell you what, so many of the people who unfriended me, the first time I'd ever seen them post on my wall is when they were saying, "Fuck you, Blair, you're an evil racist bitch." And then they leave. Or they'd write an open letter to me on their Facebook after they unfriended me. I never actually saw people, care about me as a person, or even about this issue, unless it was to just, I mean, really, it really was just to say, go fuck yourself, Blair. You're an evil Nazi racist bitch. Um, and so, and really, a lot of these people, the only time I would ever hear from them is when they would comment on something negative. Not once, very few of these people did they ever ask me how I was personally, or, engage with me, just on something neutral. So I always question people on the left. Well, one, if they're not doing anything, if they're not putting the words into action. Like, I actually attend school board meetings.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And I'm going to be a poll worker as in voting polls, not stripper polls.
Oh, dang it. I was gonna say I was gonna
I
I'll
know
put
my
it there.
conservative vagina on the
On the
stripper
poll?
pole.
Yeah. You're
Um,
this show is really gonna write itself, isn't it? Okay, this is
it
good.
totally
Okay.
can. The new polls are the stripper polls, and that's where people are going to show up in person. That's how we will get America to vote in person again. Stripper
Amazing.
poll.
Woo.
But yeah, I mean, really, do people really care about these issues, or are they just really more passionate about being keyboard warriors and, telling people like me off and making themselves feel better because they think that I'm the oppressor, I'm the Nazi, even though I'm actually standing up for people who don't look like me,
Like I'm
and that
standing
I'm
up
actually
for you,
standing up
buddy.
for that I'm actually standing up for all of America
Yeah.
side, because actually conservatives, while people might want to say we are a side, conservatives are actually what these principles are founded on. What America was founded on, sorry, and America is for everybody. And while some would say, well, that's not true. Well, give
Read
me
the
one,
Constitution. Read the
well, give
Constitution.
me, well, you know what? And I'm like, you know what? First of all, no place is perfect. Look at the history of any country.
Mm-hmm.
America is not different in that sense. However, America is different in the fact that they have righted these wrongs. There will always still be some stupid humans out there, and there will always be people who make mistakes. But the fact is, um, regardless of how you identify or whether you look like me or not, think like me or not, we are all equal in the eyes of the law. Now, some people can argue, well, that's not applied equally. And I would say, yes, I actually agree with you. Let's look at Kim Fox in Chicago and her friend, Jessie Smollett, who got off on like what, a misdemeanor or something. I don't know. I could be way wrong about that. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. The law should be applied equally. Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, Bill
Yeah.
Clinton. So yes, I would agree with you in that sense. However, we still do have checks and balances. And yes, women are equal to men. Black people are equal to white people. It's like we have all the same rights now. We, at one point, you're right, everyone was different,
Yeah.
but we righted those wrongs. And I think it's more important to see the rights that, or the wrongs that were made right, versus, well, that was wrong. It's like, well, you have to go back and ask yourself, what stuff have you done that was wrong in your life? Did you make that right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather people focus on the changes, the positive changes you've made in your life, or do you want them to focus on your past? So, I just ask people that, when they think about that. And honestly, the reason people pick on America is because we are the best country in the world and we are the major superpower.
They're jealous of us. That's what it
And,
is.
of course, you're going to pick on the person or the country that is the most powerful. Um, and while people might not believe that, while people might buy into lies, and honestly, there's a lot of misinformation, but there's a lot of missing information.
Mhm.
And that you can't just do on a simple Google search, because, Google is a leftist company.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still believe that America is the land of opportunity, and there's a reason people do escape from horrible countries to come here. There's a reason for it. And while I'm not for illegal immigration, I'm here for legal immigration. You have to, I mean, liberals have to, see that these people are coming here for a reason. They're not going to Canada.
Nope.
They're stopping in America because they know that this is the land of opportunity and this is the best, most free place where I still believe anything is possible here. I think we have more obstacles, and I don't really recognize my country as much as I did when, we were born into it.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't recognize it then because I have a baby. But growing up in it, I still felt like I could still see, even as an 8-year-old girl, see some corruption in there. But I was like, but there's still a chance for us to fight. And there
Mm.
still is. But I think collectively, the silent majority, we have to take the word silent out of it and recognize that we are the majority and we need to take our place there. Otherwise, things won't change. And so that's why I go back to just, coming out, being brave. And while, and I'm sorry, I'm like talking your ear off and stuff.
No.
Um, but I appreciate you letting me speak. Um, but yeah, and I mean, so that's one reason why I am still an artist. I mean, obviously, I'm always going to be an artist performing. But that's why I created a podcast for that, because I'm like, the word has to get out there. And I think people need to see uniquely that there is someone who's an artist doing this, because I feel like art and the entertainment industries, those are the very last two industries that are completely unchecked and unchallenged by the left.
Yeah. And plus because they've let him get away with a lot. I mean, they've just let him come on through and let him just do it.
Well,
And
the arts and entertainment industry is the one place where I will see people drop everything if they get a gig. Everything. They will be bothered by a call late at night from their agent, and they will drop everything for it.
oh yeah.
That, because it is such a volatile industry and ego is such a huge part of it. Everyone wants to be in front of the camera. Everyone wants to feel important. Everyone wants to believe that their innate gifts and talents make them very, like, far superior. That, it's very, while, art can be deep, it can also be very shallow. The entertainment industry is very shallow, and I actually group theater and performing arts within that. And So, like, for example, I should be a little more specific. I'm speaking in vague terms. So there was there's a lot of art that I would say is not child appropriate. But I still see high schools putting on, plays that talk about subjects that probably, I personally don't want to see two teenage girls kissing each other who are still in high school. That makes me incredibly uncomfortable. What else here? I'm just trying to think of, like, or, I don't want to see, young girls playing hookers. That's weird to me. But families, parents want their children to succeed. And so parents, even if they are conservative parents, will not speak up against these high schools. Um, these kind of, like, or they won't speak out against their agent, if they're doing a film scene that requires them to use, like, foul language or to watch pornography, because I've seen that and that's
Mhm.
disgusting. I've seen that in films, children watching pornography. It's weird.
Yeah.
Um, but these parents, because they want the best for their kids, and because, again, this is such a volatile industry, you are replaceable. Every single person is replaceable in this industry. I totally get it. But again, theater and entertainment are like the last two places where no one is brave enough to speak out, even if they do see something that's not right, because they know that their opportunity will be taken away. It's not if, it's when,
Yeah.
if you speak out. And so, I got myself in a position where I'm making my own opportunities, and I'd still love to be given opportunities by others, but, whenever. But I still see this as the one last place where people need a voice. Um, and I'm willing to be that voice.
Yeah, and I feel
So
like, and I know we've talked about this before, where making your own opportunities, I mean, that's where it is, especially right now. because if you're not comfortable with let's say you get a script in front of your face and you're like, and you negotiate so many times, you have a right to say, peace out. Don't care how much money you pay me. I don't feel comfortable doing this, and see you later. Now, I
Mhm.
granted it could be like $1 million or whatever, and that's a shame. But at the end of the day, I feel like money in the past, which is, I mean, really, I'm guilty here too, but it kind of starts to cloud your judgment on what you really believe in.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's one of those things too, where I love that these days, especially, you can create your own work. You can. I mean, the technology is available to you now. I mean, completely you got YouTube, if unless you get censored, then obviously not. But you have all these, but aside from that, you have all these other platforms, you have all these other opportunities. I mean, shoot, yeah, like you said, rent theater spaces. I mean, shoot. I mean, at the end of the day, if they start doing the whole, well, if I find out you're conservative, then you're no longer allowed to rent for my space, then we really have a problem, because then it's like, I'm paying you good money to rent the space, so you shouldn't care what the show is.
Right.
And I feel like that's going to be the next thing to start creeping in. And that's a thing where I'm a little worried. That's the thing I'm a little worried about, because, like, well, if you keep shunning the opportunities and shutting us out
Yep.
more through just giving you money, hello, in a way, capitalism, I'm giving you
Yeah.
money, to make a profit eventually, like, hello. But it's, yeah, so it gets to the point where you have to really go, so how much more of it can you take is really the end all question. It's like, well, how much are you willing to, just keep taking until finally you start to push back? And I think I'm starting to see more and more in the arts community, not just in obviously local, but like everywhere nationally, that's starting to go, you know what? Maybe this isn't that worth it to me. And I'm just going to start creating my own thing, and have a more successful show than the one that they wanted me to do to pay me the $1 million. And who knows? But at the end of the day, I'm sticking to what I believe in, and that's it.
Well, and I think it is harder for people who have more to lose. Me, I'm just young and early in my career, as are you.
Mhm.
And so, we don't have millions of dollars at stake. We
Right.
also don't have children, or a mortgage. Um, so while I do see that, and actually people have come to me and been like, well, I have more to lose than you do. And I'm like, cool. Do you think that the founding fathers just had nothing to lose? Do you think the people who gave us this country and gave us those freedoms, do you think that they, didn't have a house and a farm and a family and people under them who relied on them? So I don't like that excuse. I think that you can be smart about it. But we cannot keep going to a point where it's like, okay, well, I can, I can deal with this, but if they do this, we cannot, and that's how freedom gets taken away a little bit at a time. And I had seen someone post something like, you can only kick a dog so much before it'll bite you. But I don't want it to get that bad. I don't want to keep being kicked.
Yeah.
I don't want violence in the streets. I
Mm-mm.
don't want a civil war. I don't want any of that. I do want civility. But I believe that the way that happens, again, I don't want violence. I really do not want that. But I believe that the way that things can start to change is if we start changing culture.
Yes.
And we as conservatives, libertarians, even
Mhm.
we have to start pushing back and saying, you know what, you called me a Nazi and I resent that because I am not. Don't you dare call me that, because do you know what they actually did to people? I am not that person. And, I think our actions obviously have to speak louder than our words. We need to get better about debating. We need to be smarter about that. We need better people in office who actually share our values, not the Mitch McConnells of the world. Ugh, oh
Oh,
Lord, I know, th- throw up. Um,
and see, that's another thing. People assume all Republicans and conservatives love Mitch McConnell.
mm-mm.
We
No,
don't. We
no.
really don't.
Um, but it really is a culture thing. And I think,
Absolutely.
especially young conservatives are standing up and trying to change culture with theater and movies and art. And, it's slow. I mean, because obviously we don't have major budgets, but I think if we start infiltrating that, and I'm not even saying about, well, we'll just go off and make our own art.
But look at Daily
but
Wire. Look at what they're doing. Sorry to interrupt you, but
but
look what they're doing.
yeah, I mean, but it's like, why don't we start creating movies for all? But like, they just happen to share our values. And actually, what I love that conservatives do, they'll be like, hey, you see that movie that was made by so and so, who is still a liberal actor, that shares their conservative views. I think showing, um, more and more people that it's like, actually, you hold more conservative values than you think. And I think continuing to uncover corruption, um, but again, showing people that it's like, we are part of this culture, we are Americans,
Right.
we're all allowed a seat at the table. I think if we continue to push back on that, intellectually and with art, I really think changes will be made, and I do believe in an America that even in 20 years things could be different. Where it's like, yeah, you have conservative artists on Broadway again, openly conservative.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you about that. Where do you see, like, because I strongly believe that conservative artists will take the stage again, especially the way things are really like the tide. I can just feel the tide turning. I feel it because like the Biden administration is starting to flip flop just as much as Dr. Fauci's flip flop this whole year. And now more conservatives are starting to come out with their own stuff, like we said, and all that stuff. So I have a feeling that, like they say, those 41 theaters, well, I have a feeling once the vaccine whole thing that they're going to do, like with the whole requiring and all that stuff, I think that's going to be a big slap in the face on them because it's just going to backfire because nobody's going to show up as
Well, I
much.
mean, Broadway is all from tourism. Broadway
Exactly.
makes their money through tourism. No one is going to travel to New York with all the money that you have to spend just to be told you can't come in here or you have to have this. Like, if someone wants to go on a vacation and enjoy themselves, they're not going to just like get a vaccine just so they can go on vacation.
Yeah, that's the thing because I have a feeling that someone's going to be very fed up. And then that's when like a conservative movement's really going to come in that department. My gut's just telling me that's what's going to happen
Well,
because
I mean, I'm telling you what, I really believe that if you are a conservative artist, you should be taking your place in your appropriate spot right now. This is the time to do it when you can still be considered one of the pioneers. I think and I don't say that lightly because I understand that with being a pioneer of anything, it takes guts, it takes chutzpah, it takes cojones. And I mean, it's not fun all the time and it's not easy all the time. It's not glamorous. I mean, hell, I've not been invited to any parties. Shit. But
I'll drink from home. It's fine.
just drink from home by myself as people continue calling me every bigoted name in the book. But the show I'm doing, it's Oklahoma. It's by Brian Cloudis Experiences. It's going to be in Roseland, Virginia, August 19th through September 5th. Brian Cloudis, Clowdus Experiences. We're doing the family friendly Oklahoma, not the one that was done on Broadway where they talk about gun control. It's going to be a really awesome version of Oklahoma. James O'Keefe has the lead. Julie Trammell, I forget, I'm sorry, she's going to be so mad at me. She is playing Lori. James O'Keefe is playing Curly.
But that's
Um,
cool that James O'Keefe is like, that's kind of like,
James O'Keefe,
like,
girl, I'm so excited. I even just got his like measurements, because I have to clothe him for the show, and I'm just like, this man is tall. This man is a very tall man. And
if you're listening, I'm a big fan. We're big fans.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I contacted Brian because I had interviewed him
Mhm.
for my podcast, which by the way, you know that you're not an exclusive elitist asshole when you go on a girl's podcast who has like 10 downloads, okay? You're still willing to go on there.
You're preaching to the choir right here. It's like, hey, that's exciting though. It's very exciting.
And it's funny because I even told Brian, but he and I were on the same page. But I was like, Brian, this is a show about pioneers, and we are pioneering a new age. We're an entire group of people who believe the same things, but also believe in just the love of America, the love of theater, the love of free speech. We're all getting together and we are creating art. We're just here to create art. And we happen to be on the same page and think similarly and have similar values. But look where we all come from. One of the guys, his name's Anthony Watson. He competed in the Olympics in 2016. He's going to be in the show. He plays Will Parker.
That's awesome.
Never met the guy. It's incredible. I mean, and truly, I told Brian, I'm like, Brian, I feel like I'm a pioneer with a podcast about theater, politics, art, and cancel culture. You are a pioneer, Carrington, because common SenseAcrat, the fact that no one talks about common sense anymore, we get so wrapped up in these issues that it's like, can't we just apply common sense to this instead of narrative? What Brian is doing with this play, with this musical, um, I definitely encourage people who are feeling afraid. It's like, what do you have to lose? Think about what you have to lose, but have some faith and think about all the possibilities that will open up to you, and I didn't even know what was going to open up to me, but I just also too my faith in God.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of people that makes them cringe when they think about that, but I don't care. Because if I didn't have God on my side, I honestly probably would not be open about anything. But I was like, you know what, God, you are the God of the universe. If you can part the sea to free the Jews, the Red Sea to free the Jews, I'm pretty sure that you can open up some theater doors for me, that you can open up some financial doors for me, that you can open up a world of opportunities for me if I just take the first few steps. They're uncomfortable. I lost 100 friends, 100 people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And especially in a small town Cincinnati, losing 100 people who say, I mean, oh my gosh, I had this crazy, did I tell you about this? A person who blocked me who I've never met before in my life.
Oh, I remember you mentioned something like that to me at one point. Yeah, when we had
Well,
coffee, I
for
think
your followers, this is
yeah.
how
Reiterate
insane.
the story for us. Yes.
Okay, so I went to the Young Women's Leadership Summit. That's part of Turning Point USA. And it was all women. I ended up meeting some girls who actually live in the same area that I do. So we all got together for dinner. And I was like, yeah, I'm an actor, I'm an artist, performer. And they're like, oh, so do you know so and so? I was like, I've never heard of that person. And they're like, well, she blocked me. But let me see if one of the other girl. And I was like, okay, well, what is her name? I typed in her name on my Facebook. Her name didn't come up. I was like, okay, well, let me try her Instagram. Because I was like, maybe she's just super private.
Yeah.
Again, I'd never heard of this person. And even when I saw a picture of her, I'm like, I don't recognize her at all. And I'm pretty good with faces. So then another friend at the same table looked her up, was able to find her immediately on Facebook, immediately on Instagram, and they were like, "This girl blocked you, Blair." And I was like, "I have never in my life met this person
Oh,
before.
God.
I've never in my life met this person, seen this person, talked to this person, and they blocked me."
Oh my gosh.
And I, just think that's very weird and funny at the same time, that it's like, I mean, I get it if the left is like if we were living in a sane world and people would not think, if we were living in a sane world, people would just openly admit, Blair, I just don't like your ideas. But no, they have to go for your character based on nothing and say you're a Nazi, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, based on nothing just because you disagree with them. And you know I just think that's just so interesting that it's gotten that bad, that people will just get rid of you because they think you're X, Y, and Z based on nothing, based
Right.
on the fact that you just question some things. So, and it was interesting. Someone said, "Well, you brought up Trump, and you're a Trump supporter, so that's why everyone unfriended you." Not once did I bring up Trump. Not once. You can go back on any of my posts and see it. Seriously, my Facebook would be open. I don't trust people anymore, but I mean, Carrington, you could go because we're friends on there. You could scroll down my whole Facebook list and see where I've posted about Trump. When I came out as conservative, never once did I mention Trump. And so for her to say, you support Trump, I'm like, no, I said I was a conservative, pro-life Christian.
See, and
Uh,
then automatically you go straight to Trump.
because I know some
Okay.
pro-life conservative Christians who did not support Trump. They're very few and far between, but I do know them.
Right.
But for her to say, well, you supported Trump, I'm like, all my posts were never about that. Not one post was ever about that. when all these 100 people unfriended me. So, I mean, it really just goes back to people don't like different ideas. And of course, they will try to reason themselves, you know, out of any argument. But the fact is, you just don't like the way that people think. You don't like people who are different from you and thought. And it makes you feel more important when you can just say and call people names and consider yourself morally superior by virtue signaling.
Right.
Boom! Throw
That.
down!
See? There you go. All right. Well,
Yeah, I know. I'm sure you're like, okay, Blair, I get it. Thank you.
no, we could literally talk for like 5 hours, but my listeners would be like, I gotta click.
I'm like, I'm tired now. Can I go to sleep?
No, no, but I want to ask you, basically I have two things really to ask. Actually, you have four things. No, two things. Sorry. I'm like reading
Ever?
papers all like
Four.
to work. But what are your top podcasts you're listening to right now?
Okay, so I love Bailey Sarian's Dark History. I
Excellent.
love the Liz Wheeler Show. Common SenseAcrat, of course.
Whoop whoop. That should have been your number one. Rude.
I'm
No,
sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm
No,
just
I'm
kidding.
actually in no particular order.
Oh, okay. That's better. That makes me feel better. No,
And then of course, just because it's a shameless plug, the Cancel Curtain, which
oh,
is
of
on
course.
Spotify and Apple. That's my podcast. I do actually will occasionally, huh?
I said follow her. Follow her.
Follow my podcast on Spotify and Apple. Actually, anywhere you can find a podcast, you'll find it. The Cancel Curtain. Um, but and actually occasionally I'll listen to my episodes just so if I need to hear things.
Oh yeah.
I don't use it just to hear my own voice. Uh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Sorry, I burp a lot. And then actually, okay, so I don't listen to um I like to listen to true crime a lot. It's so weird and it's so like
True crime is good.
sad, but to me it helps me process stress. It's so weird. But actually I go on YouTube and I listen to Bailey Sarian, her true crime. But then I also listen to Eleanor Neal and she's like this British girl. I like the way her voice sounds. It's very North Country. And that was kind of like a Pepperidge Farms kind of accent that I did. Whatever. I'm sorry. But no one gets that joke. Okay, and who else? There's another girl that I really like who does true crime on YouTube. But yeah, so I just love to listen to true crime. And then Ologies on Spotify. That's a good one. And then of course, Steven Crowder is my actually number one. He has a podcast, but I actually watch his videos
Yeah.
on Blaze, which if you don't know what the Blaze is,
You
it's a
need
place where you can find basically any kind of conservative
yeah,
hub. And
TV's
I
great.
prefer them over, honestly, and I prefer them over Daily Wire. Um, I don't really listen to much Daily Wire like at all because I think Ben Shapiro is so annoying.
Yeah.
He
I can
talks like this, and if you just want to know about how he talks, then you can just listen to him like this.
like I like listen because he has that show Debunked on the Daily Wire because it's only like 10
Yeah.
minutes. And I'm like, cool. It's a subject I'm interested in. I'll watch it because it's only 10 minutes long. But that's all
And
yeah, I'm with you. That's all I can handle.
he's a great debater.
And
You
he is.
know, he is, but I still think he's a little too elitist for me. You know, he's never actually worked a real job. When I say like a blue collar job. And he's like said some things about blue collar people about like if you're unhappy with your job, to just get a new job. And I'm like, yeah, it's that easy, Ben.
Easier said than done. I know I hate when people say that because it's like it's easier said than done, but that's when you know you have an elitist on your hands when they can say that to you.
Yeah, and I don't like but
Okay.
people can't say that I am not consistent. And they're like, well, Trump's an elitist. And I'm like, actually, he's wealthy. That does not make him an elitist.
Yeah. Yeah, people need to start. Yeah, people need to start actually remembering what definitions actually are.
Well, the fact that he gave all of that up, he could have doubled his wealth
Dude,
instead of be president.
seriously.
He lost money being president. He lost power. He lost influence. He lost friends. He lost a lot of stuff that matters when you are at that level,
Yep.
you know? And so, you know, for people to say, well, you believe in elitists. No, I don't. And you want to talk about elitists. I mean, Biden has been in office for 50 years and done nothing, and yet he is a very powerful person and he has zero skills. How? Same with his son, but whatever. I digress. I'm getting off subject.
That's all right.
Um, but okay, so yeah, those are the podcasts.
Awesome. And the next question I have, what are now besides Oklahoma, your Oklahoma, what are
Well, not mine.
well, no,
The
I don't know
people.
that. The people, yeah,
People.
there you go. Yes, that's even better. The people's Oklahoma. The actual Oklahoma, damn it. Anyway, what are the shows that you're looking forward to see when things actually turn normal, let's hope?
So do you mean like on Broadway or just
All
in
of yeah,
general?
in general. Like what are the top shows?
Um,
You could do all Broadway if you want, but
okay, well, if I were to go to Broadway in a perfect world, like pre-pandemic, let's say pre-pandemic,
that's better.
because we don't know
Pre-pandemic.
what post-pandemic is going to be like. But
Yeah,
if it was pre-pandemic and I were going to go see some shows, definitely Hades Town,
that's a good one.
because I love Reeve Carney and I've actually seen him live before and met him. And I had a huge crush on him, but now he's gotten to be a little too leftist for me. And I don't like it, but he's still really hot. And so I would definitely see Hades Town. I forget what else is playing there. So I don't really remember that. But now I would, you know what? Just because I miss theater so much, I just want to see anything at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I got
I
to
kid you
get
not.
right. Yeah.
Even if it's some like obscure play that I've never heard of, that actually, what I have been seeing more, well, looking at more, because a lot of the professional theaters, I'm just so done with them because that was the crew that kind of got rid of me.
Mm.
Um, but I do love that a lot of community theaters aren't so beholden to their boards, that they can do more plays and things that aren't as well known, or they can do more classics. So I've actually been looking at more community theaters just to go and see their stuff, just to hear the story.
Yeah.
um so I mean, that's always just nice to go and see and enjoy, but at this point I just want to see theater um pre-pandemic days.
Oh, yes. That would be, yeah, that would be lovely just to go back to pre-pandemic days. And that's actually the question I'll stick with. Like pre-pandemic, what shows would you be looking forward to? I could say that. And then what are the things right now that you have hope for? I know you've mentioned a lot of it in the show right now, but maybe the top three things. I know it's gonna be hard, but this is a good question, I think. What are the top three things that you're hopeful for, but you also still can't lose, like you're losing sleep over? And what I mean by that is what are the things that you look forward to seeing a change in and for the
Mhm.
better, but they're in the same topics that you're losing sleep over?
Okay, so I love to travel and obviously I want to go see theater. So vaccine passports, I'm really hoping those don't become a thing.
Thank you.
Because then really we're no different than the book 1984, and also to Nazi Germany. I know a lot of people reference that, but it's like, show me your papers. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't want to show you my goddamn papers. Um, so that's something I lose sleep over, but I am positive about it, that things could change because enough people are angry about it to stand up and not be passive about it. So that's something. And honestly, even though I like rant and rave a lot, I am actually super positive and I do live a very positive, happy, joyful life. And I try to find joy in things, because ultimately God is bigger than government
Mm-hmm.
and always will be, whether you believe in him or not. I don't care. Well, and actually, I believe that, I mean, politics is politics. But something I do lose sleep over, and yet at the same time I see a change in, is the amount of friends I've gained and the amount of people on my side and the amount of people who um, contact me and say thank you for what you're doing. And I even tell them, you know what, eventually you'll get there and I will be no different. So I'm super positive about that and hyped that it's like it's just going to keep getting better, because we see it all throughout history,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um And then another thing that I'm looking forward to, well, I mean, obviously, only time will tell with uncovering more corruption. And I know it's still out there, but ultimately I know, and again, I understand some people are not Christian, but I know how this all ends. And in the end, we win. And when I say we, I mean like God, Jesus win. And so I ultimately, like, I know that I'm going to heaven, and I know that, even if the world burns, which that's going to suck because I would like to be gone away from the world when it burns. But I do know that there is hope and there is a light beyond the horizon. And also too, I just know that life is goes up and down. We have good times, we have bad. It's not just like this trajectory of just going up, 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 up. It's very much like this. So, you're gonna, with obstacles also comes good stuff as well. So,
Yes. And then and for my listeners on the show, what's coming next since we're wrapping up the episode. What is it now? This is definitely gonna put you on the spot now. What is a quote that you like, or a quote that you just is like your mantra in life?
oh yeah, oh that's easy. That's
Oh, good. That was an easy one. Good.
oh gosh, you're gonna okay, so it's not even that it's that deep, okay? But this is kind of how I live my life in a way. I care very much about my time. So my quote that I say to myself, I'm really good at wasting my own time. I don't need others to do it for me. So that's actually why I don't spend my time like with, negative people or I've never had I can honestly say this, I've been in one relationship and then I got out of that because I'm just like, I don't like people wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I don't like and actually it's also a mindset. I'm not going to waste my time on things that, you don't really just need to be wasting your mental energy on. So I'm very good at wasting my own time. I don't need others or something else to do it for me.
Outstanding. And that is a quote.
Wise words from Blair Godshall.
Exactly. Well, Blair, tell the audience one more time where they can find you and where they can find your podcast again, just to repeat it.
Yeah. Okay. So the podcast is called The Cancel Curtain. The Cancel Curtain, not the canceled curtain, the cancel curtain. It's a red curtain. Yeah, it's a red curtain, stage curtain. And that's the thing on there. And it has a big strip that says cancel on it. And you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. But honestly, you could go on any podcast, Google Podcasts. You can go on any podcast platform and you will likely find it. So, yeah, The Cancel Curtain.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming on to my show, Blair. It was wonderful having you.
Well,
And
yeah. And now I'm going to have you on mine.
yes, so definitely, yeah, look out for that in the future, folks, because that's definitely going to happen. But hey, common SenseAcrats, as always, until next time, look out for the next one. Bye. All right.
Yay. I hope that went well.